I'm Jennifer Doudna, one of the members of the organizing committee, and it's a pleasure to welcome to the stage Anna Middleton from Wellcome Sanger Institute. Anna?
Hello, everybody. It really is such an honour to be flown out here to present to you today. Thank you so much for the opportunity. For those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Anna Middleton, and I work at the Wellcome Genome campus in Cambridge. I'm a psychologist, but also a genetic counsellor, and I'd say that work as a genetic counsellor really grounds the research that I do. I've worked with families who have been dealing with the most potent aspects of grief as they grapple with genetic information, and that's very relevant to the genome editing discussions of embryos. I'm going to tell you about the public engagement work that we've been doing. We've been hearing a lot already about the need to engage publics, the need for a social engagement, the need for people to be on board with this. But how do you actually do that? What's the evidence base behind those communication methods that you use? How do you actually start a conversation with people who know nothing about genomics? And so that's what we've been researching. And I'm going to tell you about some empirical research that we've done, which is a global survey to gather public attitudes towards genomics. And one of the most influential collaborators that we've had in our work over the last few years is a partnership with the film industry, but also the advertising industry. So people who are storytellers by way of work and who are have great expertise in turning complex messages into very simple messages and getting the human story out there very, very quickly so that you engage really quickly with the human story. And so we've been trying to use some of those methods in our research when we're engaging with public audiences to be able to give people enough of a connection to the subject so that they can feel that they can then answer questions about it. So in the Your DNA, Your Say project, we have this little boy, Charlie, who explains what genomics is through the metaphor of his playroom. So the playroom is the internet. He has shelves with his toys on there. The shelves are like databases containing genomic information, and the toys are like the genomic data. And we talk about the data being exchanged and being used and being played with. And we use that as the metaphor for introducing a bridge to the complexity of the science, and it seems to have worked quite well. This is a global survey that we've had translated into many different languages, and here's the Urdu, Arabic and Japanese translations. And we're currently recruiting across the world, and if you don't see your country here, then please let me know if you'd like to be involved. We're really encouraging as many collaborations as possible, and if you recruit in your country, we'll give you your data and then you publish as first author on it. So you can see that we've really covered the whole globe, or trying to. So I'm going to tell you some of the first results that we've got from the first 9 countries where we finished recruitment. And so this is data from 19,000 completed surveys from representative public audiences from these different countries. And we know the audiences are representative because we've checked the data against census data. And we start in the survey with a very, very simple question. If you're interested in the methods behind this survey and why we worded the questions in the way that we did, we've published a methods paper in Personalised Medicine. So one of the first questions was, are you familiar, just generally, with this broad topic of DNA, genetics and genomics? And what we found was, we said, yes, I'm familiar through my work, personal interests, family, medical history. We gave prompts there about how you might be familiar, or no, I'm not familiar. And so here's the percentage across the 9 countries that we've finished collecting data in that shows that people are just generally not familiar with anything to do with this subject matter. So unless you're in the USA, public knowledge, familiarity is very, very low. particularly in Germany and the UK. We also wanted to ask about what people thought about DNA information. You hear a lot about exceptionalism and how some people feel very confidently that DNA information is not exceptional in any way and doesn't need to be protected differently from other sorts of data. And other people think very differently about that. And I'd never seen this actually asked of public audiences before. So this is how we framed this question. And this is a very classic way of framing questions where you give both sides of an argument and then you say, what do you think? So the question was, some people think DNA information is the same as other medical information like blood pressure or blood sugar or cholesterol. Others think DNA information is special or different because it tells us how we're related to people. What do you think? And people could say, I think it's the same, or I think it's different. And you can see here that the people that thought that DNA information was different to other medical information were mostly from Portugal, Poland, the USA, whereas people from Russia and Switzerland were much more likely to say, well, data's data. You know, whether it's medical data, health data, banking data, it's just data. And I think that's a really useful result to show that not everybody sees the world through the same lens that we do. Now, I'm not going to present the results from the next question I'll just tell you about, but just to let you know, we also asked, okay, if you think data is a little bit different, do you think it should be handled differently? Do you think it should have specialist protections against unauthorised use? And people were able to say, no, I don't think it needs anything special in terms of protection against unauthorised use, but I just do think there's something a bit different about it. What's very important for variant interpretation is being able to access large databases containing data from thousands, millions of other people with their DNA and their phenotypic information in there. And that's how you interpret a variant, by making these comparisons. Now, those large datasets exist of data that actually at one point in time belonged to a person. And that person should have consented to donate their data. So we were asking, would you donate your anonymous DNA information and medical information for use in 3 different scenarios? And the first scenario was for use by medical doctors in the care of others to try and help with a diagnosis in another person. So here you can see that the numbers of people who say, yes, I'll donate my data for use by other medical doctors is not massive. I mean, it's more than 50% in most of the countries, but it's still not a resounding, yes, I understand, you need my data, I feel altruistic, go use it. Bear in mind that these are public audiences, and when we pulled out the patients from within this, they were the most likely to say, yes, go use my data, go do great things with it. I understand that data is useful and powerful, and my data should be part of that. Would you donate your anonymous DNA information and medical information for use by non-profit researchers? And we very clearly articulated the difference between non-profit and for-profit. And you can see the numbers are starting to drop down a little bit. So around the 50% mark-ish and less, saying, yes, okay, I'd be happy for non-profit researchers to use my data. And what about the for-profit world? Would you be happy for for-profit researchers to use your data? And here you can see the numbers are lower still. So people were saying things like, why on earth would I donate my data if big pharmaceutical companies will then make money from it? Will I get anything back in return? They may make medicines that I then can't afford. And there was clearly a very big disconnect between the reality. People just didn't understand that we need these partnerships with industry in order for medicines to be developed. So a big exercise is needed to really articulate the collaboration needed between all the different actors to enable genomic medicine, particularly to deliver on its promises. So here are those 3 graphs next to each other, and you can see the declining interest as we go through. And then the last question I want to focus on, and we've got so much data in here, we'll be publishing for the next 20 years, but I just wanted to focus on the issue of trust, because this has come up a few times over the last few days. Would you trust the following people with your DNA and medical information? And we asked specifically about, would you trust doctors? Would you trust universities, companies? And what about governments? So I'm going to give you the government data. I would not trust my government with my DNA medical information, and the most mistrusting were the Polish and the Russians, and the most trusting were the Canadians and Australians. Now, I think it's going to be fascinating when we finish recruitment across all the other countries, and bearing in mind we've got translations coming out in Icelandic and Swedish and Polish and loads and loads of different languages, Urdu. We're also going to have some recruitment in Ghana in Tree and Uwa, 2 Ghanaian languages. So to get a real eclectic mix of public attitudes, and I think it'll be really interesting to look across and between countries how attitudes vary. And that's where I'd like to end. Thank you very much.